What if I told you that the biggest thing holding your team back isn't their talent or your strategy, but a hidden fear that could be costing you millions? Today, we are digging into the secret behind truly high-performing teams, and honestly, it might just change how you lead forever.
So let's just start with a number. $80 million. Get this, that was the minimum price tag a major company was paying like clockwork every 2 years for making the exact same mistake over and over again. A massive critical project would just completely implode, and for the longest time, nobody could figure out why.
So a new president comes in and he starts digging. And what he found was that the root cause wasn't some broken process or a tech issue. Nope, it was a failure of courage. People on the ground saw the disaster coming from a mile away, but they were just too afraid to speak up to their bosses. It's a classic case of what they call CEO disease, where bad news gets filtered out as it goes up the ladder, leaving the leaders totally in the dark. And here's the really scary part. It could be happening in your organization right now.
Now, what's so fascinating about this is it points to this fundamental conflict we all have at work. It's a paradox. The exact moment you need your team to be bold, to innovate, to take smart risks, is the precise moment our ancient, hardwired survival instincts are screaming, "Don't do it! Play it safe! Keep your head down!" We're literally fighting our own biology. And that's a battle that, let's be honest, most teams are losing.
Well, researchers have actually given a name to this gap between what we know we should say or do and what we actually do. They call it the last 8%. It's all the unspoken feedback, the tough questions that never get asked, the brilliant ideas that just die in silence. And buried inside that 8% gap, that's where you'll find the seeds of real innovation and the answers to your biggest challenges. And this isn't just a theory. A huge, multi-year study of over 34,000 people put a number on it. Turns out, on average, we're willing to have about 92% of a difficult conversation. But that last 8%, the really crucial part, the part that has real stakes and could actually change things, that's where we stop. That's where we get scared and clam up.
So the big question is, how do we get our teams comfortable enough to close that 8% gap? Well, the answer isn't some new app or another management process. It's about understanding the invisible force that's running the show, your team's culture. And it turns out, we can actually map that culture using two really fundamental pillars. This culture map gives us a super powerful way to see what's going on. Think of it like this. Along the horizontal axis, you have connection. That's all about psychological safety, trust, feeling like you belong. And then on the vertical axis, you've got courage. That's the willingness to do the hard stuff, have the tough talks, and take smart risks. Now that top right corner, that's the sweet spot. That's where the high-performing teams live. But what happens when that balance of connection and courage is off? Well, based on research from over 72,000 people, teams almost always default into one of three underperforming cultures. So let's go through them and see if any of these feel a little too familiar.
Okay, first up, we have the most common one, found in about 37% of teams. It's called the family culture. And it sounds great, right? Everybody's connected, everyone's so nice. But here's the problem. Nobody wants to rock the boat. So real feedback gets watered down, people aren't held accountable, and pretty soon, mediocrity becomes the standard. All because courage is in short supply.
Then, found in about 14% of teams, you've got the transactional culture. Now here, there's a ton of courage, but it's kind of brutal. It's all about hitting the numbers, short-term wins, and relationships are seen as totally expendable. This creates a super high anxiety environment that, you guessed it, leads to massive burnout and people heading for the door.
And then we have the fear-based culture, which shows up about 16% of the time. This is where you have low connection and low courage. The one word that defines this place is unpredictability. People are just walking on eggshells, constantly afraid to speak up or make a mistake. In a culture like this, that last 8% isn't just avoided, it is actively and sometimes ruthlessly shut down.
When you see them all laid out side by side like this, the pattern just becomes crystal clear. A lack of courage always leads to avoidance. A lack of connection always leads to burnout. And when you're missing both, you get this toxic mess of unpredictability. It's only when you master that delicate balance of both high connection and high courage that a team can really unlock its potential.
All right, so enough about the problem zones. Let's talk about the goal, the culture that the best teams in the world are constantly working to build. This is where the magic happens. This is the last 8% culture. It's all about having high accountability and high care at the same time. It's a place rich with feedback where everyone knows exactly where they stand.
Taking smart risks becomes the default because there's so much trust. And here's the key. This culture achieves amazing results through strong relationships, not by sacrificing them. And that creates the safety for real experimentation and innovation to just take off.
Okay, so the single most important thing to take away from all this is that you can absolutely actively move your team toward this goal. It's not a fixed state. And the very first step is just to get an honest read on where you are on the map today.
So you have to be really honest with yourself here. Ask this. Do people on my team feel really connected, but we kind of shy away from the hard stuff? If you're prioritizing being nice over being effective, well, you might just be living in a family culture.
Or, how about this one? Do we crush our goals, but at a real human cost? Is there a vibe that people are just cogs in a machine, easily replaced in the pursuit of a target? If that stings a little, it could be a sign of a transactional culture.
And finally, ask this. Is there just a general feeling of anxiety? Where people keep their heads down, trying not to rock the boat, and maybe don't even feel that connected to each other? That right there is the classic sign of a fear-based culture. Now, the next step is not about you having all the answers. It's about starting the right conversation. And the absolute key to making this work is your own vulnerability. You have to go first. Share where you think the team is and what part you've played in creating that culture. That's what gives everyone else permission to be honest. The goal here is simple. Walk away with 3 concrete commitments you can all agree on to move forward.
And I can't stress this enough. During that conversation, what you do will speak so much louder than what you say. If you get defensive when someone gives you feedback, you've just reinforced a culture of fear. But if you stay open, if you truly listen, you are already building the connection you need to get to that last 8% culture. Because ultimately, this is the big shift that separates good leaders from truly great ones. Your job isn't to demand performance or push people harder. Your job is to create the conditions, the culture, where people feel safe enough to be courageous and their best performance can just emerge. So the real question isn't just about your team, it's about you. What kind of culture are you choosing to build, starting today?